Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle and triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for being here on this episode of Her Version. We have had over 400 women grace this platform of this podcast, and we have another one joining us. If you are jumping on live, thank you so much for being here. If you are watching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're watching us at so that we can send you some love. But this platform is built on storytelling, the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I'm speaking with an amazing woman named Grace. Grace is a gifted energy healer and soul purpose coach who empowers spiritually minded entrepreneurs to align their purpose and passion with their profits so they can scale their business with simplicity and ease. Oh, I love that. Her journey to flourish after toxic relationships, low self-esteem, I get that, and surpass an unmovable income ceiling resulted in the creation of her signature methodology she calls Your Soul's Money-Making Genius. Yes, this self-evolution blueprint is designed to help you activate and expand into new levels of inner worth so you can experience expanded levels of true outer wealth that you became an entrepreneur for. As a result of her 25-year passion for personal evolution and expansion, Grace has also developed her own unique system of Cadillac-like self-empowerment healing that she describes in her book, The Freedom to Flourish, Stop Hustling and Become Profitable. I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Wow. That was a wild introduction. Somebody really smart wrote that one.
Yeah. Yes, I love it. Well, I so thank you for being here, for taking some time to hang out with us, for sharing some of your story journey, some value. You know, without women like you, the podcast industry wouldn't even exist. So we appreciate you taking some time out of your day to sit down, relax with us for a little bit, and share some stuff with us. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So this podcast is all about storytelling. We love to hear stories. And I would love to kind of hand the floor over to you to share a story with us of inspiration, of hope, of challenge, big, small, whatever you're pulled to share, to kind of start us out, you know, with some goodness, some inspiration today.
Well, I guess I've got a zillion stories because there's been a zillion massive shifts in my personal self-worth that I've done over the years. And so which one would so what comes to mind is the story that woke me up for my spiritual development. And I was in a marriage that was, pretty toxic, and I needed to get a divorce. And so I asked my brother to come out and be with me when I was telling my husband I wanted a divorce because I was afraid that, there might be some violence. Didn't think there would be, but just waiting. And in my family was, they never really helped you, but they gave you a book or they said, do this or do that. So there wasn't a lot of touchy-feely. It was all brainiac stuff. And so true to form, he says, well, no, I won't do that. But did you want to walk on fire? And I'm like, huh? Walk on fire? That sounds fun. What is that? And So, and it was really cool. It was my 40th birthday. Kid you not, downtown Denver on the Adams Mark Motel. And there's, of course, it's a Tony Robbins event. And here's this big, huge, long fire walk. And I'm like, wow. And so, yeah, I did. I mean, it turns out I walked on fire like 5, 6, 7 times because I really immersed myself in his teachings because it really did wake me up. And the big wake up was I thought before it was my husband's fault that we were unhappy. It was my husband's fault that my kids weren't getting the care they needed. It was my husband's fault that X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, and I was right, of course, and he was wrong. But during that journey, I realized, oh my God, there's something wrong with me.
Wow,
I've got to handle, and like, what's that? And and to tell you the truth, we came back from that very first walk on fire weekend, and my kids were little. They were like 4 and 7, and it was like February, so I was living in Colorado, and my babysitter had taken them sledding. And she said, Grace, there's something wrong with your older son. He didn't want to go sledding. Like, what 7-year-old doesn't want to go sledding? And so it was like my kids were starting to show the symptoms of our dysfunctional marriage. And that really catapulted me. That really made me passionate about inhaling all the things, all the spiritual principles. Because the way I was raised, that I thought was right, was very narcissistic, controlling, toxic, right? And so that began my journey. And it took longer than I wanted it to. And I kept praying, dear God, make me the mother my children need me to be. And it took a long time to drop the habits of controlling dictators, they finally called me. And but when I finally did, they started getting empowered. When I finally forgave myself for being the narcissistic person to them, like I was raised, being fully justified, that's when my heart opened to myself, and I was able to drop the narcissistic behaviors. And it's very rewarding. Well, not very easy, but that's what made me so passionate about soul purpose and soul empowerment, because and that would be the light, that inner glow that develops, that gives us self-validation for self-love, that allows you to forgive yourself. So anyhow, so my kids are doing a lot better. We have a good relationship. They're off doing their own thing, and they're not as dysfunctional as I was. So there you go.
I love it. I think one of the keys to that story that you told that really resonated with me is the blame parts.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so easy, and I did it for so long, where you just blame everything is his fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. And I don't know when it happened for me, but there was a huge shift, exactly what you're talking about, where I looked and I was like, wait a minute. It's not just him or even him. It's me. Like, I have to make
together, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I
Takes
have
two
to
to do
make huge pivots, some huge changes in the way that I'm showing up. And it really helps you get your power back.
You think? Yes. And that's what I'm so passionate about now, is power, because, that blame, because when I finally realized that I was the one that was really hurting my kids, and he was he was a jerk, right? But he was a nicer jerk than I was. And he had access to his heart, and I didn't. I was brainiac, like total brain. When you're all brain and all logic, man, you get things done. You're in the business world, you're really good, and logic, and you're smart, right? And I was prided on that. But this heart thing, there was like not a lot of info, like that's not a strong part of you, when it is the most strong part of you. And what did I want to say about that was, when I found out, when I could see that it was me that was, I didn't know what the word narcissist was at the time. All I just thought was I was emotionally murdering my children. And when I could see that, I just looked at my healer and I just said, God should never have made me a mother. Like, what the F? Like, what am I doing? This is F's. Like, stop this. And it was horrible. But yet out there I was a mom, but couldn't like back out of that one. So what really helped me be able to forgive myself, like I said, was really building up, dropping from my head, opening my heart, which is good. But the heart is still like it's a chakra, so it's got all the human dynamics of someone walks in the room and you're like, oh, reminds me of a happy person. I can relax and have fun. Or someone walks in the room and you've got their energy reminds me of someone that I have to distrust and put a wall around, right? And so it carries betrayals and blames, and it's got walls around it. But your soul is the part of you that's timeless. Mm-hmm. And it's the part of you that's unconditional love. Mm-hmm. And when you tap into your soul, like for me, I couldn't forgive my cousin because that was the most unforgivable thing. And for me, even because I could hear God saying, I could feel him. You're forgiven, Grace. We get it. We get it. I still wouldn't. But when I felt the power of my soul, and it was unconditional, it was loving. Not that God's wasn't, like, yeah, of course it was, but it was a different quality, a different thing that just really brought me home. And from there, I started getting my power back, because like when there's blame, when there's shame, when there's guilt, whether you're blaming yourself or you're blaming like your ex-husband, justified, right? Or you're angry for somebody for something because of injustice and in betrayal, somebody's got to be punished.
Yeah.
Either them or you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I was punishing me because that, I couldn't punish someone else because I had no power to punish them. But I could certainly stay in victim mode. See what you did? Because of you, I have to be powerless, which you don't think about it, but it's pure when you dig in to your subconscious, which is what because of the path I'm on, I became very expert at that. That's like easy for me to do. And I can see it in others and like, oh, there's this pattern, right? But when you, I don't even know where I was, but where was I?
We were talking about power.
Oh, the power. Yes. And so once I was able to forgive myself and stop blaming myself, that's when I emerged out of victimhood and into my victory story that I've been trying. And that's when doors started open for me financially, because that was the biggest place. And that's when I started working out again and eating better. And that's when I got a lot of energy back. Chronic fatigue went away.
Wow.
What do you call it when you're really angry in your body? It's and it's painful everywhere. Uh, painful. It's a syndrome, autoimmune disorder. They call it a syndrome when the doctors don't know where it comes from. They just call it something. Pain everywhere. Fibromyalgia. Yes, I had fibromyalgia pains too.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And so this kind of deep work really lets go of stuff like that. It's a big thing.
Really?
It does.
like healed it or lessened it, or how?
Healed it over time. Like it wasn't my aim to, I mean, I was asking to get my energy back, and I was asking to be relieved of chronic pain, but it was how it happened. How I became to know this was over the years. I would get some people in and do some healing for them. And when I go into healing, I go in this little circle mode, like it's really weird. And I used to just do a guiding light just to clean all the chakras and bring colors through, like not thinking much of it. But then the next day, the people that were in that call would call me up, Grace, my bumps are gone. Grace, I don't ache anymore. Grace, I don't need to take as much asthma medication.
Oh.
And in the beginning, that was pretty scary. Like that's too much power, right? And for a person's not supposed to have power, that's too much power. So shut it down.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How does power relate to profits?
Oh, well, if you've heard of procrastination, have you heard of self-sabotage?
Yeah.
Have you heard of the inner skeptic and your inner critic?
Ooh, inner skeptic. Let's talk about that.
Ooh. So inner skeptic happens anytime you go for a big expanded goal, which all our coaches tell us to do. Oh, you have a goal, now double it. Right? And what that does is it triggers your inner skeptic, and it shows you, mind body reaction where your invisible income ceiling is. And it's, all these sub personalities that we have. We give them such a bad rep. Like we're mad at, like, stop that self-sabotage, like stop it, put it in the corner, like treat it like it's a little kid doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But it's really trying to prevent you from breaking a vow or getting into trouble or risking rejection.
Yeah.
And so when you're not worried about risking rejection or being abandoned or looking stupid or being too vulnerable or things like that, then it's like see, here's this right here. Where is it? So here's this thing right here. So let's say that this, if I can do it right. So like this is inner, like you're trying to hide that you're afraid. You're trying to hide your vulnerability. You're trying to be stronger than you are. You're trying to be inauthentic, like you have the mask on. And that takes a lot of energy, or you have a lot of fear. And that takes a lot of energy. And you're walking around and you're okay, but it's like, oh, I can hear it clicking. It's a mouse. And it's like, it's on here. So your attention, which is energy, which is power, gets focused on that. But when you calm it down and talk to it, because it really does love you, are you still there? Oh, yes. You've got a lot of energy back. And that's how it heals you physically as well. I mean, I'm not on here to help people heal physically. That's not my game. That's not my jam, but that's the side effect of what happens. You do get your energy back.
Nice. I have somebody here asking sub-personalities, ?
Sub-personalities. Well, we have a lot. So the lower self, or Carolyn, since we're talking about power, I mentioned the 4 that Carolyn Myss talks about. So Carolyn Myss talks about the power archetypes, which are, like characters, and they've got the personalities. And those 4 are the child, of course, the victim, the prostitute, the saboteur, those 4. And we recognize them from our being in defense. So when we're a victim, like we talked about that before, is like it's all blame, and you're blaming because it was a PTSD. It was traumatic. It was really, really scary. It's like you're stuck looping in that same feeling of powerlessness.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you're really not I mean, if you were really a victim, you would be dead, but you're still alive. You're standing, and even with those horrible stories, you still got a heart, and you're still loving, and you're still giving, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one sub personality, and then depending upon your primary soul archetypes, that's what I'm soul's money making genius, right? Learn more about that there. You either become a victimizer or you just go straight to victorious. And what does that look like to you? Right? So there's that one. And then, so that's as one power sub personality archetype. And then the child, is this interesting to you? You
Yeah.
liking this? Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the child is the part of us that's like most connected to our soul. You know, like when you think about it, when a kid comes out, how powerful is a child? Um, the the world stops for the parents. You know, all of a sudden they're buying diapers. It's in their grocery list, diapers and baby food. A room in their house gets painted a different color, and cribs are moved in, and mother-in-laws come, and schedules change, budgets change, and the life goes around this baby who's, what's it doing? Nothing but being pure love.
Yeah. It's doing nothing.
It's doing nothing. And we keep hearing that all the time. Be that like a child. Well, and that's power, because power in its highest form is power to influence. And that baby's really influencing your family, right?
Yeah.
And then the children do as well. And so really coming to realize that, you know, like so many of us are still reverberating from, you know, being a child and being controlled in some manner, you know, just to fit into the family and whatnot. And then we got the saboteur, and the saboteur is a part of us that usually hangs out in um, the gentleman was talking about subpersonalities. Well, each of our chakras have a consciousness, and in charge of that consciousness is another quote subpersonality or another archetype, right? And so, and you have different strengths depending upon your unique soul character, your unique soul qualities, your unique soul purpose, because everything of all the subpersonalities are designed to, in its highest form, higher self, and enlightenment is designed to put you on your mission, designed to, you know, receive that true outer wealth. And here's a concept that I just heard the other day, and I'm just really, really embracing it. I'm loving it. Is, you know how sometimes we're just doing, and we do and do and do and do, and we do. Well, the mindset, or the quote, the heart set, the feeling set behind it starts with the mind, but when it's really anchored in, it's when you feel it in your body, when you feel it in your glow, when you feel it in your heart, is it activates receiving. It's that giving and receiving. And when you're giving, you're actually receiving. So instead of doing, you can just say, I'm getting, I'm receiving, and you're doing. And when you set that intention, that's service.
Got it.
Isn't that cool? So
Yeah.
then there's another archetype in there that I forgot. Saboteur. Oh, saboteur is usually in the smartest part of you. Like for me, apparently my brain is really smart because you know I just was raised that way, and that's what I got. And so overthinking. Anybody here ever overthink a problem? And so that, you know, when you overthink it, then your inner skeptic gets up and says, yeah, no, logic says, and past history says, and
Yeah.
you know, but we all know the sayings: "Your past is not your history. Your you know, past is history, future's mystery, present is why it's called one." Um, and then the last power archetype for Carolyn Miss was the prostitute. No one really wants to embrace the word prostitute for themselves. Like, do you?
What does she do?
Well, she gives away herself in order to get some sort of safety back and some sort of kudos back. You see, the big, huge commodity in relationships is love. And they're like, when you don't get love in the way you need it, even though your parents may love you, like that's what happened to me. My parents loved me to death, but they wanted me to be something that I wasn't because they weren't aware enough. It was, it was also a different generation where children weren't seen and weren't heard and they were supposed to be perfect. And so I kind of tried to comply. But when you try and comply and you're not meant to be in a box, like they love the box, and I'm like this. So if I felt like my wings were clipped, and when your wings are clipped and this is where I prostituted myself, was I loved them so much that I let my wings be clipped. So I stayed in the box and I just did what they wanted. Yes, but for both male and female, both people do that. That you give away yourself in some way. And so, what leaders typically have a big shapeshifter within them in the second chakra. It's that the part of them that on the higher self side is an influencer, like you gain rapport. And then the lower self side is kind of like that manipulative thing that we all kind of quote judges. How could they do that? But it's just part of it's their defensive side. But where was I going with that? Defensive, shapeshifter, second chakra, relationships, prostitute. And so for me, my shapeshifter was my prostitute because
Wow.
I was so intuitive, such an empath, and I could just read people, know what they expected, know what they wanted. And the habit from childhood was be who they want or else something devastating is going to happen.
Wow.
And so it's stopping those patterns. And the higher self, the evolution of the prostitute is of course self-respect. And so
Ooh.
like we don't have to stay in victim, we can be of have a victory story.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, liking that.
Yeah. Which one of those is mostly connected to power?
Well, they're all power archetypes. So, like if you're giving away your power, like I was talking before, where if you're focusing on, so the victim focuses on blame, and then okay, I got this. Here's more. This is my prostitute. I have to like give away my power. I can't be me. No, how dare me? I'm just gonna be this. Meanwhile, me's like, where is me? Me's gone. And then you've got your saboteurs like I can't look pretty. Do you know what I'm saying? And so then you try and walk around and like they're moving, right? It takes a lot of energy. It takes away your focus. And so when that fray is gone, when the Indians believe in shapeshifters, yeah, I'm sure they do, but I think I'm talking in a little different. I'm talking
Yeah.
about personality shapeshifting. So,
Yeah.
but when that fray is gone, there's a quiet. Like for me, every time I did a big, huge shift and let go of one of those big chunks, it was like quiet, like really, really quiet. And all of a sudden, I could see opportunities in front of me that I couldn't see before.
Yeah.
And I can be present and engaged when I wasn't before because I was also worried, well, who do I have to be? Or I can't have power, so I must be sabotaging myself. I wonder how I'm going to do that today. Of course, that was all automatic in the background.
Yeah.
But when you let go of that stuff, that's what happens. And that's why I'm so, so, so passionate about true wealth. This is how you build your greater inner worth so that you can experience the greater outer wealth. You have the presence, and you all of a sudden you're noticing nature. You're noticing it was like smelling the roses on steroids.
That totally makes sense. What is this soul money making genius that you talk about?
So that's my signature methodology that I use for entrepreneur women. And it's a 3-part self-awareness, personal growth, personal development, shifting. And it's a combination of using, well, what mindset do I need to have? And then awareness, like, and awareness. And then enabling you to really embody it, to self-validate it within you, so it becomes a knowing, not a I think I am, I affirm I am, I think I am, I affirm. It becomes embodied, becomes your unconscious competence, right?
Got
You're
it.
not faking it till you're making it. You're not pulling up your bootstraps. And so the first part of the methodology, of course, is you got to know who you are.
Yeah.
And that's sole purpose. And I've got like I talked before the archetypes. Well, there's 5 soul purpose archetypes, each with unique higher self and lower self qualities. And most of us identify with our lower selves and we're ashamed of it, so that we're not embracing our higher, our real true reason that we're here. So that's part 1. And then so when you get to that one, and during part 1, what's cool about your soul is when you validate it, you get a feeling back that it's like when you taste something, if you know it's sour or sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is that. Like when you say something like, I am a leader, and you're embraced it, like, before I never thought I was a leader, because I was squashed. Like everybody else was a leader and I was like following everyone else, right? You heard that story already.
Yeah.
But when I really realized, oh, I'm a leader, and then I realized how awesome it felt when I was leading, then your soul goes, glow, glow, yay. And you feel it in your body. It's a glow, it's a tangible feeling.
Wow.
And then you grow that. And I can go on forever, but it starts as a little glow, and then of course you grow it bigger, and then you expand it. And when you expand it, that's the magic ingredients for quantum manifestation, quantum level, quantum physics manifestation. So, but that's part 1. Then part 2 is, let's reframe your sacred relationship with money, so that money at the same visceral level actually feels, the give and receive of it actually feels like love. And so going back to soul purpose in part 1, the purpose of your soul is to feel joy, of course. Yeah, be like that little child. Yay, do nothing. Just be there, right? And yes, that's lean back. We talk about divine feminine power. There you go, right? So we're leaning back. And so that's one part. And the other purpose is to use your unique gifts in service to another, right? And that's love, right? Because when you're actually passionate about how you run your business, and how you connect with people, like that's what you love to do. And that when you get someone that you really connect with, that like lights you up, and that's another feeling that makes you just you. And it's a glow, and it's a power that when you get it really large, then all doubt, all fear, all shame, all power over is a lot less intense, a lot easier to let go of, less traumatic, goes faster, quicker, right? And eventually it's like not even in your world, but that's kind of advanced. So there's that. And then so once you know that, so then the giving and receiving of money is love. So just really realizing that money is a physical representation of you in service or someone else in service. So either you're loving them or they're loving you. And then the last part, and so that becomes the foundation of, quote, we're talking about power. That becomes the foundation of your power. And then the last one is your sacred relationship with power. And most of us, especially those that are on this Her Nation live show, who have the story of from wounded to warrior, right? Their story of victorious, have this like conflict with power because they were a victim, right? And that it's just like your mind is like, oh, PTSD. But when you can really make that shift and you start with awareness and then you anchor it in with energetic healing, that you start with this big ball of soul purpose glow and money is love, and then you realize, oh, power. Like I said before, it's the power to influence versus the power to control or manipulate. It becomes choice. That makes you really powerful. And it's very scary, like Marianne Williamson said, right?
Yes. Jeff has another question. If you want to read it out loud for the audio.
And how am I spiritually minded? Okay, how successful you're with your current soul purpose, and how can I use your gifted? So I'm very successful with my soul purpose because you see me talking now. I don't know, like maybe 2 years ago, I had a paralyzed vocal cord, and anytime somebody put a mic up in front of me, my voice would squeeze down, and I couldn't speak. It would just like my mouth would move and nothing would come out. I would go to networking events and I'd be the first time I would go in person, couldn't get out of the car. So I did some spiritual healing and then came back. And then I was able to go in and walk around and smooth. Yeah. And I would always ask about them until they asked about me. And then I would get totally flabbergasted. And I'd kind of just kind of and off to the bathroom. Sometimes I would throw up. Sometimes I would just go home. So I've got a lot of stories like that. So I'm very successful with my current soul purpose. And how can I use your gifts? I'm not exactly sure that question. There's lots of ways you can work with me, or I've got a lot of free things. And then how am I spiritually minded? Well, like I said in the beginning, when I was raising my children, the way I was raised wasn't really working. And so I just inhaled Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Barbara DeAngelis, John C. Maxwell, you just name them all. I did Tony Robbins, got certified in NLP, EFT, tapping, the learning about money, learning about relationships, and it's all kind of synergized together into this 3-step thing that I think I know is faster, gentler, more effective than traditional mindset healing and going out there and teaching. It's like, I know because I was trying to chase it for a long time.
There you go.
Yeah.
This is all so enlightening. I love this. I do want to give a quick shout out to those watching live. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. Thank you for those of you that are interacting and asking questions. We always enjoy that. But I want to ask, so we've been talking a lot about power, mind, what else have we? Money, soul purpose. For those that are listening live, they're obviously resonating with you. They've been hanging out for 39 minutes. They're interested. Who should be reaching out to you? Who do you work with? And what can they expect to get from working with you?
Oh, goodness. So I work with spiritually minded entrepreneurs, mostly women, who are really wanting to use the laws of spirituality to grow their business. And some of them are stuck, and some of them are just like, yeah, I'm tired of just trying to do things the normal way. I'm different. And what is my purpose? What is my passion? Or I'm making 100K. I want to make 200 or 500, but I'm hustling in place. And this is the catalyst that puts that over. And what was the other question?
What can people expect to get from?
What did they expect to
what are they
get?
gonna walk away with? Yeah.
Oh, you will get this, what I was talking about before. What you get from me is this empowerment, where situations before that crippled you, or like you wouldn't be able to, like I worked with Jennifer, who's an esthetician, who was working in a spa and wanted to go open her new business, but she had signed a non-compete, and her boss was kind of a snarky leader. He was a power over kind of guy, right? Intimidator. And she was very intimidated. So I worked with her to separate her from his energy, build up a boundary of self-worth around herself. It's an energetic boundary that's within inside of you, and freedom release him to be himself, and he could or he could, whatever. And so that was just like one session, and she came back and said, Grace, it was a non-issue. I just went up and said, hey, I know I have a non-compete, but I'm really wanting to open my own shop. What do you think? And he goes, yeah, sure. How can I help? And, so it was like totally against his character, because others had asked before, and for procrastination or for clarity of purpose, like even just doing that soul purpose personality and really embracing it in your soul, just that, you get your marketing message out of that. Because when it's your soul purpose and you know who you're here to serve, your marketing message just becomes like super clear. And the direction you want to take your business in becomes clear. So you get clarity, direction, purpose, empowerment to, remember I was talking about that glow thing. You're going to develop this inner glow that makes you fearless as you step into the unknown, which all entrepreneurs do, because you jump off a cliff and you're like waiting for the wings on the way down, right?
Yeah, for sure. Where can people find you on social media? Where do you hang out at?
Where do I hang out with? Just Facebook / Grace Mosgeller. I've got a Sacred Soul Shares a private group that I'm just starting up. So that one's there. It goes with because I've a lot of these things I've got on guided meditation programs, because we're working on bringing your heart and expanding your heart, bringing your brain down into your heart and expanding your soul. That's an inner job. And I use crystal ball healings, like crystal ball music in the background, and then guided healing meditations that use like EFT tapping scripts, that use the principles of NLP, that help you do that just position of the mindset shift at the soul level. And you do soul aligned affirmations. So yeah, you're a different person you can expect to be a more empowered different person by the time I end up working with me.
Do you work those bowls over virtual? Or is that in person?
That's about as much as I do live, but I have them recorded. And when I do them recorded over virtual, it's the same effect because it's resonance. And the cool thing about crystal bowls is that we're crystalline in nature and they're crystalline in nature. So they're at the same resonant frequency, like the same octave.
Yeah.
Or like the Tibetan bells, they're an octave higher. So they're still helpful, but the crystal balls really, you just listening to them is a healing on its own. And then
I
full
I
spectrum.
love how we can hear that because it's such a like I can still hear it.
Well, it was
That's
still
just so
playing.
interesting over the virtual that you can hear it for that extended amount of time. Why do you do what you do?
I'm passionate because now I'm empowered, and I hate it knowing that I was super powerful and just being wing clipped, crippled,
Yeah.
and like trying really hard. Like I'd sit down and try and write an email, a marketing email or a marketing post, and I'd be like, oh, not that. Oh, not that. And I get up and go like distract myself somehow. And that was hard.
Yeah.
That's not fun. And it's not fun to watch your friends become successful and you're not. When you know
Yeah.
you're smarter, more capable, more loving than they are, and they can, but you can't. And that's not a night. That's not a fun place to be. And I don't want anybody else to be that way. That plus, um, when you relate soul to soul, that's how we'll heal the planet. That's how we can bring peace and prosperity, because soul is unconditional love. It's when you're soul to soul, it's peace, because everyone's like the hummingbird and the bumblebees. They don't know they're doing their soul purpose. They're just doing their thing, right?
Yes.
And so,
Totally.
right, and so all this human, um, she done me wrong, betrayal, or victimhood, or prostitution, whatever. That becomes a moot point. And
Wow.
so, as each one of us creates our own little heaven on earth,
Yeah.
that ripples out. And they say that one person impacts 700 people around them, vibrating. So it's like amazing. And then I wanted to go back to this sound. The other thing that travels across um, uh, this virtual world is the feeling of healing. And I graduated from a 3-year mystery school, life mastery and healing. I got a master healer certificate, full spectrum healing. I'm in grad school now, but during the middle of COVID, we had to go virtual, and you can feel the healing across the internet. And in fact, most of my volunteer for Life Spark Cancer Resources in Denver that provide Reiki free Reiki for cancer patients. And I serve by distance healing, and it's they can tell, they can feel it, they get results.
That's great. Very cool. Well, I love everything you do. So fun, so enlightening. Thank you so much for sharing so much with us. Stuff I've
Yeah,
never even heard of before. So super cool. For those of you listening live, for those of you listening on the replay, if you are resonating with all the goodness that Grace shared today, make sure you reach out to her on her social media, Facebook and
I think
her
going to the website's the best way to get a hold of me.
website. Yeah, very
Yeah,
cool. And
because
any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Um, be that like a child, have fun, play. and if you
Aw,
want, and if you want change in your life, here's a tip. If you want change in your life, just do something different, like part your hair on the other side, or
there you go.
brush your teeth with the opposite finger, or take another route home, because that interrupts the sameness, like that repetition of that our brain is so smart at. But anything that we're really good at becomes our liability, right?
It's good. And I do that actually. I do part my hair on different sides on purpose. That's
Well, you're
interesting.
like, and look at how you involve in your business, and look how
Yes.
much you grow. So you've got that dexterity of change.
Yes. Oh, look at me
Oh.
go. Thank you so much for being here, Grace. We so appreciate it. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share, please reach out to us at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I am so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others.